Hey guys,
Hey.
we're at E3. It's a little deserted right now. It's after the Sony press conference. We just got done watching it. You can obviously check out all our coverage on GameInformer.com. I guess I'll pass it off to you, Mike, first.
Sure.
What's your quick reaction to Sony's presentation?
Pretty surprising. I think we all kind of expected, or the thought that was going around was that, the things we'd been hearing from Microsoft about used game restrictions and online checks, Microsoft was just going the first one to talk, and everybody who was putting all their faith in Sony, they were going to be disappointed. Holy moly, not the case. Sony they came out, showed a lot of games, and that was the other thing. It was just all games, with the exception of one little entertainment thing. And then towards the end, talking about kind of their approach to used games and online connections and price.
Leading up to this over the past week or so, there were a lot of conversations in the office of people saying, if Sony was really smart, they'd come out and say this. And they pretty much said exactly what everyone wanted them to say, what everyone was hoping to hear.
Yeah, I think this is my 13th E3 by my calculation. And I've seen a lot of press conferences. I don't remember an atmosphere within a press conference like that. It was electric. People were literally chanting Sony at one point, which, the E3 crowds are notoriously, they're jaded, they're grumpy, they're tired. They're journalists. They don't applaud for stuff very enthusiastically. It was like a party atmosphere at the end. And then on top of the used game thing, I think the thing that's, a really hard fact and inconvenient, truth for Microsoft is the thing costs $100 less. And Microsoft might be able to adjust their used game policy. I'm not sure. I have my doubts because of the fact that they do plan for you to be able to fully install a game on your hard drive, access it from other systems if under your account. I think that'll make it difficult to maybe change courses on this if they want to change course. But they're not going to change the price at this point. Yeah. They just announced the price point yesterday, or today, earlier. Sony's $100 less, yeah, which I think alone would be a very tough thing for them to get around.
Well, if you look at the economics of the situation, and before Sony announced the price, and we weren't sure that a price was going to be announced, I had said even if Sony comes in $100 more than Microsoft, after saying you'll be able to sell your used games, trade them, give them to a friend. There was this funny video, that a 22-second video that they posted about how to share your games on PlayStation 4. Even if they had come in $100 more than the Xbox One, I think people would have seen the value in the ownership proposition, which has been a big source of controversy.
Well, yeah, and there's also the whole always online debate too, where Sony came out and was very explicit this time about saying we won't have, these 24-hour checks. I think Tretton even said that if you go 24 hours without checking in, your games won't be disabled. That was just a clear dig at Microsoft, and that's going to make a huge difference for all the people who don't have, constant, regular internet connection.
But let's talk about some of the other things, because obviously used games were big and the online connectivity was big and the price was big, but there were a lot of other surprises. What did you think other than that?
I thought the game The Order 1886 I thought was a nice move. It showed interesting new IP developed, was about Ready at Dawn, their great PSP studio. So I just really liked the fact that it was, like you said, with a brief thing about media. It was largely, focused on games. I think that they showed a lot of good games, and I was really surprised at how frontal Sony was at sort of attacking kind of Microsoft. Very explicitly, they set themselves up as kind of, at least for a certain crowd on the internet that's been very angry, I think, as sort of the good guys. We're focused on games. We're focused on indie development. I thought they had a great section showing some really deep support from the indie development community. You saw like Supergiant Games, Oddworld. I think people had been wondering what Lauren Lanning and Oddworld had been doing. He's another kind of, for the hardcore gamers in message boards, Lauren and Oddworld's very, I think, beloved. So I think they did a really good job. If they wanted to win over hardcore gamers, the type of guys that post on message boards and things like that, I think they did a hell of a job.
Last issue or 2 issues ago, we did a big piece on the indie games and how you can self-publish. I think all that is playing to Sony's strengths. And what I didn't realize at the time was they mentioned, 5 or 6 indie games during that wrap up, and then they said that they're all coming exclusively, first to the PlayStation 4, which I think is another, just shows that they're really going after these companies, and also the Elder Scrolls Online too was another big surprise.
I was surprised we didn't see that at Microsoft's conference. I was surprised. Now, Bethesda.
And we should say it is. Bethesda said it is coming to Xbox.
Okay. See, I know that I didn't.
Yep.
I know they sent an email right after I didn't have a chance to read it. That's actually the first Bethesda confirmed Xbox One title, because they haven't confirmed Wolfenstein yet. They hadn't confirmed The Evil Within.
Sure.
They've been very cagey about that.
I bet they will, though.
I'm sure they will. But it was odd. It was one of the things I noticed. For me, I think some of the biggest surprises, not only just the game lineup. But we know at launch that we're going to have Infamous Second Son, we're going to have Drive Club, we're going to have Knack, and we're going to have Killzone. I mean, these are, two of their core franchises in Infamous and Killzone are going to be there on day one, which is pretty fantastic. Right. And then you've got the PlayStation Plus issue. A lot of people were wondering what's going to happen in PlayStation Plus. All of a sudden, your PlayStation 3 subscription, and then your Vita subscription, and now your PlayStation 4 subscription are all one price. And they are launching with Instant Game Collection on day one with a version of Drive Club.
I think it'll be scaled down.
I completely expect it to be scaled down, but the fact that there's going to be something right off the bat.
Yeah, and one thing, I think we're heaping probably rightly a lot of praise on Sony. One thing that I think we're still waiting on clarification of, it appeared to suggest, at least to me, that they might be moving multiplayer gaming behind a paywall of PlayStation Plus. At least that was what was sort of coming out on Twitter. We've reached out to Sony for clarification on that. So that might be one way in which they are sort of going to move people towards paying, much like how Xbox Live has always done. So we'll have to see, but that might be one small area in which gamers are losing a little bit with Sony. But at the same time, PlayStation Plus does obviously give you already a solid value as it is. They did say media like Xbox or Netflix and things like that will not be, and Flixster will not be behind the paywall. So that's something that Live doesn't do.
Flixster's important because it's tied to Ultraviolet, which is the digital copies that come with a lot of Blu-rays these days.
Right.
The other thing that they didn't mention, and I would believe that if they are moving to a paywall system for multiplayer, that the other thing that will be involved in that is the sharing features. That's going to take a lot of bandwidth.
Yep.
Yeah. And they also mentioned that coming in 2014, we kind of suspected this was going to happen, but the Gaikai streaming and the vault, the library, yeah. I think that Microsoft had a strong press conference, and I know we covered that earlier. I thought that their games and showing what they did was good, but I just don't. Sony did more at their press conference than I expected them to do.
Yeah, I don't think anyone 6 months ago could have really anticipated the level of emotion and anger that was sort of started by this used game and always on debate. And I think, a lot of people thought, well, maybe discs just aren't that relevant and people don't care. People care. Yeah. They very much still care, and they feel like, their rights as consumers were being taken away. And gamers, I think, online reacted very, very angrily about this. And Sony, I guess, played into that strategically, and they tried to placate those people, and you saw the reaction that they got. I certainly don't remember, in my estimation, in E3 where I thought it was as lopsided as it was today.
I think that the other thing that Sony's announcements allow for.
Sorry, real life drama.
Yeah.
We'll wrap up pretty soon.
Yeah. We should let's.
Yep. So the last thing I want to say is, last night I had the chance to talk with Ubisoft executives, and one of the things that Yves Guillemot said was that he was very interested in seeing one set of rules across both consoles. Now, at the time, what I thought that meant was looking for, expecting Sony and Microsoft to kind of parallel themselves. It could have been, and he also was talking about how important the used game market was to financing new games, the argument that we've heard in the past. I have a funny feeling now, based on what we know, that he knew what was going on, and he was probably aware, and it might have been a play.
I very much expected.
Yeah.
The head of Ubisoft probably knew what was going on.
So it would seem then that Ubisoft is in favor of Sony's approach as opposed to Microsoft's.
There's a lot of fallout. I think tomorrow's going to be a big day on the message boards and the comment threads and Reddit and Twitter. So we'll see how it all shakes out.
And we'll have a chance to talk with publishers and developers at their booths as we're going around to see what their take is.
Absolutely, should be a fun day.
Yeah, absolutely.